Zach tried to get that through Rob's head, but Rob was already thinking with his other head, so that probably wasn't going to work. What is up, everybody? So, Fear Factor has returned, but it's not the same old Fear Factor that it used to be. They decided to return it as a strategy based social game, which, we love here on this channel. Frankly, I don't know why more shows don't come out like this. I feel like it is the perfect time for social strategy games since Jeff Probst has ruined Survivor, but people still want to watch Survivor, but Probst has sucked every last ounce of entertainment out of that. Big Brother has a huge following, even though their producers try and ruin the show with their bad decision making. We see how popular The Traitors is. Now's the perfect time for more competition shows. I think we could get some maybe new ideas out there, but I like seeing Fear Factor come out with this. It's called Fear Factor House of Fear, and they're basically ripping off the challenge if we're gonna really get down to that. But I don't hate it. It's good to see another show. I don't know if I will stick with it, but I enjoyed the first episode for the most part. In the first episode, they are still trying to find the format. I feel like they, of course, want to give us the Fear Factor competitions first and foremost, and that is what they did. So, me personally, I would like to see more of the strategy, more of the social game. But, we got enough for now. I still think the edit is going to need more in the future to keep my interest specifically. But let's go over some of the cast. I'm not going to go over everyone because everyone didn't have enough screen time to really go over. There's 14 contestants this season. We have Kristen, a former NFL cheerleader. We have Damien, which I think is how you say your name. I'm pretty sure it is. She is a salon owner. She is probably our confessional queen for the season. I feel like she's going to give us good confessionals. For the first challenge, I want to call it the daily challenge, like it's the challenge. But Kristen and Damien had to team up. They were the only girl team. And so they said they're going to go by Chris and Damien to be like guys. So I think that is how you say her name, is Damien, or at least that's how I'm going to say it. Blake is our Fear Factor super fan. His biggest fear is mayonnaise. It always cracks me up when some people have these random fears, these extreme random fears like Blake does of mayonnaise. We have Rodney, a retired New York City detective who is not revealing that he's a detective. So he's already coming in this with that classic strategy that we've seen from Big Brother and Survivor a lot, where they don't want to reveal what their real job is because they used to be a detective. I think what Rodney also has going for him, though, is he's coming in with strategies. He also seems like the person with the least actual fears. Now, I'm sure it's probably just a poker face from him, or at least that's the way I see it, but he's doing a good job with that poker face. I think he's old enough that he might be able to put a poker face on with any fear. So I think Rodney has potential to go very far. We didn't get too much of Danielle. I think she was born in Jamaica or something. She teamed up with Rodney in the first challenge. We have Zach, who is our redneck, or at least that's what Rob called him. That's not from me, but he does seem like a redneck. He was a coal miner for a long time. He's looking to win money for his daughter so they could make their house better. Zach, I guess, was probably one of the standouts from the episode because he did have a lot of screen time. He also caused a bit of a ruckus towards the end of the episode, so we will definitely be circling back to Zach. Zach was teamed up with Rob in the first challenge, who is a Cali boy who I guess is supposed to be our resident pretty boy. He's definitely our guy there for a showmance, which we will get into. I think Rob is like a typical person you would see on a Big Brother season, for sure. That's what I get from him, for better or for worse. We had Ethan, who is, I think, the youngest, who is only 20 years old. We have Tyler. We learned about her that her biggest fear, one of her biggest fears, is claustrophobia. She's not good with confined spaces, which played into our first challenge. But the two that probably stood out the most to me, other than I guess Zach, was definitely Lance. I think Lance is getting a subtle, somewhat subtle mastermind edit in the first episode. He's definitely there to play. We're going to talk about it, but he definitely got his way by the end of the episode, even though the show gave us a fake out when it made it seem like he wouldn't get his way. And then the other standout is definitely Jayleen. She is our cute girl. We have our hot girl. But she's one of those hot girls that is going to use being a hot girl as a strategy in the game, which is what she was doing from jump. And I respect that. We see it all the time. It's why Parvati got so popular on Survivor. I think Jayleen has it in her to have a hell of a social game in this game because of that. We also learned that she is afraid of water and drowning. She's a vegan, but she's not telling people she doesn't eat meat. I'm sure that will come up in one of the show's gross challenges coming up. Anyway, the first challenge was to crown our 4 leaders, I guess, who will decide who goes into the elimination challenge at the end of the episode, which they are calling the end game. So you see the comparisons to the challenge already. This first challenge was a team game, as I've been talking about. They were randomly chose as teams. We had Rodney and Danielle, Blake and Chelsea, Jayleen and Dida, I think his name is, Ethan and Jenny, Kristen and Damien, Rob and Zach, Lance and Tyler. I love the first challenge where they have to basically be stuck inside of a giant vacuum-sealed bag together. This is to conquer the fear of claustrophobia. We talked about Tyler, that was one of her main fears, and yet she was one of the people that did the best in this. So this first episode really like to hammer in that this show is so these people could get over their fears, challenge their fears. And, Tyler did in this first episode. So the teams that won was Rob and Zach finished first, even though Rob didn't think he and Zach would be a good pair because he would never hang out with a redneck like Zach. And then Lance and Tyler won despite Tyler's fear of claustrophobia. It was at this point then that we learned that Lance is there to play. He is gathering all this info, ready to stab people in the back if he has to. He was learning everyone's fears. Meanwhile, Jayleen was doing her flirty thing for her game, which we learned that she knows that men listen to her. And Rob, our guy who's probably there for his showmance first and foremost, was doing the flirting back with Jayleen. He was already falling for her eye contact and the way she was looking at him. They ended up squatting each other while working out. Rob was squatting her, then she squatted him. And I guess that supposedly brought them closer. Zach was seeing Rob as a sucker already falling for Jayleen's charms and saying that Jayleen will cling to anyone to get ahead in this game. And he may not be so wrong about that. So Zach tried to get that through Rob's head, but Rob was already thinking with his other head, so that probably wasn't going to work. But Zach tried to tell Rob that Jayleen was playing him. Rob was saying he wouldn't fall for that. Meanwhile, Lance learned that Blake was a fellow gay man like him. He was saying Lance was giving him young Sheldon vibes, so Lance wanted to, of course, align with him. And Lance did a good job of protecting him once the winners had to come together. So the winners, who were Rob, Zach, Tyler, and Lance, got to see an example of what the challenge would be. They would be stuck in a box with bugs and creatures falling on them, and they had to find these balls at the bottom with clues and type in a code to get out of where they are. They had to pick 4 players to go into the elimination. And so Zach came back from that telling the girls that he was naming them. Zach was telling Kristen and Jayleen to their faces, who were considering themselves the cute girls, because one used to be a cheerleader and one is Jayleen and actually attractive. They were talking. So Jayleen and Kristen wanted to work together. Rob approached Jayleen and Kristen for an alliance and told the girls that Zach was getting on his nerves. So it seemed as though Rob wanted to protect both Jayleen and Kristen. So when the 4 leaders had to go in to discuss who was going into the elimination, it seemed like Blake wasn't getting his way. Sorry, it seemed like Lance wasn't getting his way. Lance didn't want Blake to be thrown in. And so I hope I'm getting these names right. It's the first episode. But yeah, Lance was trying to fight for Blake to not go in, but everybody else seemed to really want Blake in. And both Rob and Zach were pushing their own agendas. Zach really, of course, wanted the supposed cute girls to be thrown in. Rob wasn't for that. Rob and Lance got into it when they were deciding because Lance was getting upset that nobody was listening to him. And it seemed, because we didn't really get to see the rest of this discussion, but it seemed like Lance getting upset that nobody was listening to him worked out in his favor, because in the end, Blake was not put into the elimination challenge. So Lance was able to protect Blake from being thrown in. And it seemed as though with Lance getting into it with Rob, Lance must have agreed with Zach that both Kristen and Jayleen should be thrown in, because they both were. So Rob did not protect the girls that he said he was going to. And so the people thrown in were Kristen and Jayleen, because that's what Zach wanted, and it seemed as though Lance must have jumped on board with that. Ethan was thrown in because that's what Lance wanted, and even though everybody else was saying Ethan was just going to win the challenge and come back, and then they all seem to agree to put in Rodney because he seems like tough competition, and I think he is tough competition. We don't really know what Rodney's fear is. So they were all in their pods with crickets being thrown in, and then they all got random creatures, some much worse than others. Like Ethan got birds, and I think Jayleen got rats. Rodney got lizards, and then poor Kristen got snakes. Kristen definitely got the short end of the stick there. I feel like production must have wanted Kristen out because we'll say it's random, I guess. But if it was random, then she does have really bad luck, because that would have been the one that would have made it hard for me. So Rodney finished first. Ethan finished second. It was coming down to Kristen and Jayleen. Kristen was trying. She wanted to quit from jump when the snakes were thrown into her pod, but she kept trying. In the end, she quit, though. She couldn't keep dealing with the snakes. So because she quit, Jayleen got to stay, even though Jayleen might have beat her anyway by getting the codes faster than her. So Kristen is our first person out. I'm glad Jayleen stayed. I think she's good TV. I think her and Rob's Showmance could be interesting, honestly. I like that Zach is getting into it with the girls. When Kristen was voted in, she really attacked Zach. She did kind of make it a little too personal for me. She was saying that Zach could have shown up for his daughter and went after a man instead of being scared to do so. So, losing Kristen kind of sucks too, because she was not afraid to, take shots, which is good for TV. But we do definitely have a Zach versus Jayleen thing probably still going. Zach has it out for her. Rob might have it out for him because of that, though. So we have some rivalries already building. We have alliances already in the making. We have Lance, who is seeming like a mastermind, because he definitely got his way in the end with who went in. So I would have liked more time for the actual strategy and the social game to come across the TV. I feel like we only got bits and pieces throughout this episode, and I don't know if that will change, because I feel like the show still wants to be Fear Factor and focus on the fear challenges. We have some gross ones coming up. I hate when they have to eat gross shit. I don't mind seeing people dealing with snakes, even though I wouldn't want to myself. And there also seems to be a challenge when people got to put needles in their skin, which I don't like to see. I know people get acupuncture all the time, but it doesn't mean I want to see it. So those challenges I might fast forward if I do keep watching. I don't know if any of y'all are watching. If you are, let me know what you think of the show in the comments. I thought it was a pretty good first episode, because I actually do like enough people on the cast to make it interesting and be a group, not afraid to play this social game. Lance is giving strategy, but he's also giving petty. And I can't ask for more than that.